Welcome to Family Health by Mini First Aid. Mini First Aid are the UK's leading family first aid provider, and we are delighted to bring our latest podcast series to you, giving you all the information that you need around family health subjects. Thanks for joining. The Family Health Podcast is brought to you in partnership with Things Happen, a trusted financial advisor that supports new parents and their families. Things Happen offer the best advice to help parents and their families make informed financial decisions, ensuring a secure and tax-efficient future for their children. The team at Things Happen are highly qualified financial experts who will guide you through the different types of policies to consider as your family expands, taking the stress out of decision-making by finding the best deals for your needs, ensuring you and your family are protected no matter how busy life gets. If you already have life insurance, Things Happen will carefully review your existing policy to ensure that it still meets your family's evolving needs, so you know your family is fully protected. Hello, I'm Kate Ball and I'm the founder of Mini First Aid, and welcome to our podcast, Family Health by Mini First Aid. I am so pleased that you've taken the time to listen to our podcast. So whether you're in the car, you're cleaning the house, or perhaps you're having that luxury, relaxing cuppa, our Family Health podcast covers a huge range of topics that might affect just one of your family members. If you've ever got a family health concern and you're thinking, I'm going to Google that, have a listen to us instead. Today, I am absolutely delighted to introduce our guest, Cathy Tabner, who works as an expert at the very aptly named My Expert Midwife. Cathy's going to talk to us today about anaemia and mastitis, two very common conditions that can affect expectant and new mummies. So welcome to the Family Health Podcast, Cathy.
Thank you for having me.
Cathy, people may or may not have heard of My Expert Midwife before. Tell us a little bit about you and My Expert Midwife.
Well, I am one of a team of midwives that work in North Yorkshire, and we create a range of skincare and pregnancy products to alleviate the signs and symptoms of pregnancy and look after yourself well in pregnancy, right from the get-go, preconception, with supplements, right through early pregnancy with nausea, vomiting, looking after your skin, preventing stretch marks, massaging your perineum, collecting your colostrum. We do all sorts of things. Spritz for Bits is our famous product. And we do an antenatal course, a foundational antenatal course to tell you everything you need to know by experts in midwifery care. So we're all senior midwives. Our founder, Leslie Gilchrist, you can see on One Born Every Minute in that series that was filmed at Leeds, where she ran the labour ward of one of the biggest teaching hospitals in Europe for many years. And what we've done is we've come together, and I was recruited really because I've worked with some of the guys at Leeds, where I used to teach the midwives about diabetes in pregnancy, where I was a specialist for diabetes in pregnancy. And so our midwives would be updated regularly by me. And Leslie liked the way I taught and said, would you like to come along and teach some antenatal? I've always taught antenatal, always loved it. I was a nurse, then I was a midwife. I'm a mum of 3, really struggled to breastfeed, but was determined to do it. I've had 3 sections, 3 big babies, and I had mastitis, I had sore nipples, I had a baby with a tongue tie. I've never lost that passion for breastfeeding, and teaching women is my, absolute first love. So I came through, I'm in my 60s now, I'm 63, and I think I last worked on an NHS ward in 2021. So I was right through the pandemic on a postnatal ward, and I've done everything. I've done labour ward, I've done community, I've done hospital jobs, I've specialised in breastfeeding too, and just still cannot give up the goat, really. I just absolutely love it. I've got 3 grandchildren now. 3 of them born in the last 5 weeks. So I've cut down to a little bit of part-time, and I save my time really for teaching. And I do love to just empower women with that education, that knowledge, and that awareness that, you just get through these years and you look back and you think, good grief, I was absolutely superpowered in those years. So we do some podcasts called Superpowered as well, and try and, let women see that your maternal instincts are absolutely amazing. We should never underestimate that feeling that something's not right with my boobs, they're feeling a bit sore, or I'm really tired, I wonder if I need a blood test. So yeah, it'll be good to talk about both anaemia and mastitis in pregnancy, because they're very, very common problems.
Cathy, I could line up and listen to you all day. I'm a mum of 6, so I have been through multiple pregnancies with 2 sets of twins. And I can't get enough of this information. So, Cathy, thank you for joining us today. We are, as you said, going to talk about anaemia. But just for absolutely everybody listening, in case people go, I've heard of that word, I don't even really know what it is. Tell us a little bit about anaemia, and is it something that occurs in pregnancy or is it afterwards? Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, anybody with a bloodstream can get anaemia. It means a low iron in the blood, and iron is really, really important. It helps to make something called hemoglobin, and that is a capital H and a small b, if you've ever seen it written on a result chart, a sheet, or on a smartphone. So
I have, but I didn't really. Yeah, okay. So
capital H and a small b means hemoglobin, and that refers to the iron content in the blood. Now, many women in their childbearing years are anemic. That means they've got a low level, a slightly lower than should be level of iron in the blood. But any of us can get anemia at any stage in our lives. It's just much more common. It's globally about 50% rate, women anemic in pregnancy.
50?
Yeah, less in this country. Yeah, much less in this country. Probably maybe 35 to 40%. Much more likely if you're carrying twins when there's 2 babies to grow, because your babies want your iron and they take it from you. So the baby uses a lot, and the mother's blood is slightly think of it as a dilution in pregnancy. The plasma content, the watery content of the blood goes up. So those red blood cells, which carry the hemoglobin, are diluted by pregnancy. So it's very common to have a really healthy diet, rock up for your booking bloods at 8 to 10 weeks of pregnancy, and the midwife say you're anemic. Now, if she tells you that, she's probably referring to a hemoglobin level of less than 110, which is how our machines where I work calibrate it. Yours might say 11.0, but the 1 and the O. 11.0 or 110, depending on the way your machine is calibrated, is anemia in the first. Less than that is anemia. At that point, I would say the take-home message today, Kate, for me is, if you're anemic when you start your pregnancy, your diet is not enough to catch you up. You can go out and have a steak and do lots and lots of eating red meat, because anything with blood in it has got iron in it, and anything grown in soil has got iron in it. So the diet is a really key way to boost hemoglobin levels or iron levels. But if your midwife tells you at that first booking appointment that you are anemic, then your diet cannot catch up, because you've got extra demand for iron when you're pregnant. So you need about 27 milligrams a day when you're pregnant. You've got to grow your baby. You've got to grow your uterus. You've got to, your lungs are going to work harder. Your heart's going to work harder. You've got to fight infections. Your hemoglobin level is telling you that you've got an iron level in your blood, and that is carrying oxygen around the body. So think of a red blood cell as a great big beach ball, and think of it as little Velcro dots all over it. And on those Velcro dots comes along a hemoglobin molecule that jumps onto the Velcro, and then it gets carried around the body by the red blood cell. That oxygen carrying content of the red blood cell fights infections. It keeps you healthy and well. It gives you energy. So when it drops down and you become anemic, you feel tired, breathless.
I remember that.
You look pale. You feel lightheaded when you stand up, and your body can't quite do the jobs it needs to do. So if you get an infection, it can take hold of you very, very quickly. Anemia in pregnancy is also related to low birth weight baby and premature birth. When women bleed, if they've got a low hemoglobin, the body struggles to control the bleeding. So it's associated with more risk of postpartum hemorrhage. It's associated with postnatal depression. It's not a good thing to let your body become anemic. And it is in your hands as the person who's going through the pregnancy and keeping yourself well to avoid it. But I just want to let people off the hook. If the midwife says you're anemic at booking, then it's a very, very big ask. You know, you've got maybe 12 or 14 weeks when you feel sickly. You can't be sitting down to a steak every night. You can't do that. Your body struggles to do a dietary fix of an anemia if it's already on your blood results at booking. So we're going to offer supplements to a very large number of pregnant women. And a very large number of pregnant women are going to feel a bit sickly, a bit nauseous, a bit bloated when they take them. They're not really well tolerated, but they do such a good job. What we find is that women are a bit hit and miss with taking them. And you can have somebody on iron, but it can still get them to the end of the pregnancy and that iron has not come up enough in the bloodstream. And then they're at risk of needing, to stay in hospital a bit longer or to have a blood transfusion. So it's really important to me today to get across the message. If you can tolerate feeling a bit queasy and a bit bloated, if you can think, well, I'm a bit constipated because I'm on iron and that's a key side effect, but I'll go buy some lactulose or I'll see the GP and get something for my constipation, it really is worth putting the time and effort into coping with the side effects to avoid a preterm labour, a low birth weight baby, a postpartum hemorrhage, a postnatal depression. Your iron is really important. Now we store it in the bone marrow, and that's called ferritin. So we can look at iron, we can look at ferritin, and we can point out the women that are going to struggle, and we can give them supplements, but it's up to the mums to take them regularly, as well as boosting the diet with red meat, vitamin C with your meals, and doing some avoiding things. Avoiding loads of strong builder's tea with your meals will actually reduce the amount of iron that you absorb. So there's loads of hacks I can give you today.
Right. So that's interesting actually, because I was that piece on vitamin C, and then I was going to ask you about caffeine as well, because these are things that I'd heard.
Yeah.
And I wondered if they were true, that if you take a iron supplement to take it with vitamin C, so with a glass of orange juice. So is that actually a thing?
It is a thing. Vitamin C enhances the absorption by about 40%. You will get more vitamin C from a boiled egg if you have it with about 150 mils of fresh orange juice. So I wouldn't go higher than 150 mils, because my other hat that I wear is looking after diabetes, and drinking too much sweet fruit juice is not good in pregnancy. But high vitamin C foods, of course, you can take multivitamin supplements that have got vitamin C in them, and My Expert Midwife do lovely supplements, but I am a big advocate for eating real food as well, first and foremost, and just filling in the shortfalls with the supplements. The vitamin C thing's interesting. The tea, definitely, tannins in tea and coffee will knock off the amount of iron you get from a meal by 40%.
And that's the tannins, not the caffeine, is that right?
Yeah,
right.
It's the tannins in tea and coffee. And you remember Popeye, the famous cartoon, eating his spinach, making him big and strong? Well, that is a myth. Spinach is very high in something called oxalic acid, and that inhibits the iron in the meal. So you're only going to get about 10% of the iron out of a meal if you eat a lot of spinach with that meal. So just be careful with spinach. Very good advertising there by the Popeye cartoon.
Yeah, we can all, everybody's picturing it now in their heads, aren't they? Yes, I can remember the big tin. Yeah. So if you've been at your booking appointment, you've been told that you're anemic and you take your supplements to support you, and you manage that with your diet as well. What about afterwards? So baby is born. Are you more likely to be anemic postnatally as you were prenatally and antenatally?
Yeah, I mean, it's really good to top your hemoglobin level up as much as you can, because when we give birth, vaginal birth, C-section birth, we lose blood, and you can lose a considerable amount, and that can drop that hemoglobin level down considerably. A bright red gush can really leave you short of blood. So we think the lucky mums get away with a 250 ml blood loss, but I've seen blood losses of far, far more, 15, 18, 2 litres of blood, 1,500, 1,800 mils is not uncommon, particularly for things like C-sections where the placenta is in front and they have to cut through the placenta. So there's a lot of blood at a C-section. Average blood loss at a C-section is 500 mils, but for some women it's going to be much more than that average level. So you do have a bright red, brisk sort of blood loss with a lot of birthing mums. We see it, your life's not in danger, it's not a problem, but there's a little gush around about the time of birth, and that can just be enough to drop your level down. So I would say try and get your levels up. Now we'll do your bloods and we'll say in the first trimester we want it 110, in the second trimester and the third trimester we want it 105. If you have your baby and it drops below 100, then we will think, that is a bit low. You've got to lactate. Women with a low hemoglobin will struggle to lactate.
Right.
You've got to get well and fight an infection. Now, a good 35% of people are birthing by C-section now. That's a big wound you've got to heal. So wound infections are creeping up in the numbers, and anemic women do not fight off infections in wounds as well as women with a good hemoglobin. Because when you think about it, your oxygen is being carried around on your red blood cells, and if you haven't got enough red blood cells carrying the oxygen around, your tissues are not oxygenated, and they need that oxygen level to get well, to recover, to fight off infection. You need lots of lovely red oxygenated blood going around the body, and anemia is a lack of oxygenated red blood cells.
Yeah. Cathy, just remind us again, for those people listening, I know you mentioned it at the front end of the podcast, just what are those key symptoms? So what would somebody be feeling like or experiencing if they are anemic?
Well, anemia does have symptoms, so always respond to a tired, pale, breathless, lightheaded symptom set. When you're getting out of bed in the morning, just your legs are heavy, you've not got enough energy. You can pull down your eyelids, so you look at that moist pink mucous membrane. You can look at your gums. Are they a little bit pale? They should be red. That sort of Dracula eyelid when you look at a sort of a bloodshot eye. If you look in the mirror and yours look paler than your other half, then maybe you've got, go along and see about having a blood check. But all women, we check everybody at booking because we know every pregnant woman is at risk of iron deficiency anemia, and we want to correct it early in the pregnancy. So we check your level. We know the baby's going to take a lot from you. Whatever your level is at booking, it probably halves by the 3rd trimester. So, we need you eating well, and particularly red meat carries more iron and will boost your iron better than chicken or,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So red meat, fish is good, chicken, there's iron in anything grown in soil. Even a strawberry's got a little bit of iron in it, but you want the biggest bang for your buck, and red meat is really, really good. Now, if you're sickly and you're not going to feel that you can digest it, it doesn't have to be a steak. It can be, thin slices of red meat. It can be spaghetti bolognese regularly added into the diet. Mm-hmm. You can add beans, so you can make your chili con carne. You can throw lentils in with it, and they are really good as well at boosting the iron.
Okay.
You can cook in cast iron pans. They will increase the iron content of your meal rather than a Teflon coated pan. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, cast iron cookery. Yeah, and anything grown in soil. Now, if you take fruit, and I'm always wary about saying just live on fruit, because pregnant women have got such a strong desire to be healthy, and I think fruit is that go-to thing everybody thinks of as being healthy. Not too much of it, but dried fruits have got, the iron becomes concentrated in the drying process. So dried apricots have got more iron in than fresh apricots. So adding dried fruit to your cereals, if you have a cereal for breakfast, choose a fortified cereal that's got fortification of extra vitamins and iron in there. And I would say, of course I would because I'm a midwife, take a supplement just to fill in any gaps in your nutrition.
Yeah, great. And I think that was quite interesting what you said about the foods as well as red meat, because obviously there'll be people listening that have a meat-free diet or have made a dietary choice not to eat red meat. So
it's a big ask to grow a baby and to grow the eyes, the brain, the muscles and every part of your baby on a vegan diet. So most vegans know that and take supplements. Vegetarian as well. It's easy to slip down with that hemoglobin. I had 3 vegetarian pregnancies myself. I'm no longer a vegetarian, but I was at the time of having my children, and I was never anemic in my pregnancy. So it's perfectly possible. But it's a big ask, and you've got to eat quite a lot. And I'm a big eater. I like a plate full of food, so I managed it. But if you're sickly, if you're not managing big meals, it can be difficult to get that iron in. So certainly if you're already anemic at booking, you need to take that supplement. And supplements are funny things. Iron supplements do work well, but because of the way the body works, we have to take iron first thing in the morning. So our calcium is weird during the night when we sleep. There's all sorts of things going on with our calcium levels. Mm-hmm. And first thing in the morning, your iron will absorb better if you take it about an hour before you eat your breakfast. So on an empty stomach, first thing in the morning, your circadian rhythm matters. If you're a night shift worker, you can, work it out for yourself and think, when you're going to take it, when you finish your night shift or you're going home, take your iron on an empty stomach, leave it an hour before you add in other food. And if you drink it with a little tot of fresh orange juice, that's going to help avoid constipation and it is going to also give you that little boost of vitamin C that will just drive more iron to where it needs to be.
Cathy, it's fascinating. I'm also giving myself a little bit of a pat on the back because I've done this and I've done it right.
Yes,
Which is amazing because there's all sorts of things that I've not got quite right through my pregnancies, but I was anemic in all 4 of my pregnancies. And so I've been there and done it. And in fact, it took quite a long time for my levels to recover postnatally as well. It was quite a big drain, particularly in the twin pregnancies. They were quite tough.
There's some new research. I don't want to put people off taking the tablets every day, but there's some new research that says if you struggle with the symptoms, they did some small trials and they said take 1 tablet every other day, but do it consistently. 1 tablet every other day is sort of better tolerated for those symptoms, and the women absorbed enough from 1 tablet every other day. So if your GP or your midwife has said I want you to take these, take them. If you start getting symptoms, don't just put them in the cupboard or leave them and think, oh no, I'll see her in a few weeks and I'll get some more. Just go down to every other day.
Okay.
If the symptoms are constipation, you can buy in a supermarket lactulose, and that just is a stool softener. It's not, it's not a dangerous drug. It's not going to affect you if you've got diabetes. Anybody can take it, and that will soften the stool. And there are fruit teas and things you can drink that will help. And I would say, over the years, I've dealt with anemia a lot, and the look on a mum's face when the doctor comes along and says you've had your baby, everything's great, but your haemoglobin's 7.5 or 75, we're going to advise you stay in and have a blood transfusion. That can keep you in hospital for an extra couple of days because they don't transfuse overnight. They do it when they've got more staff on duty in case you have an allergic reaction. They need the lights on. They need to be able to see you in case you get a rash. So somebody else's blood being put through your body. So a blood transfusion is quite a big thing. So they only do it through the hours of daylight. So you can be sitting on the postnatal ward at 7 o'clock and somebody saying, tomorrow we'll send for some blood and we'll transfuse you. And it just slows up you getting home with your baby. So I always feel sorry for mums who think, do you know what? They gave me iron in the pregnancy. I didn't really like it, so I didn't take it. I just thought I'll eat well. And eating well is not enough to correct an anemia. If your midwife tells you at booking that you need the supplements, you need the supplements. Now, we tend to give ferrous sulfate. We tend to give 60 to 200 milligrams 1 to 3 times a day, so you can move up through the dose. If you're absolutely hating it, you can go back and say, can I try something else? There's another version. It's like Yorkshire tea or PG Tips. You can go along and say, do you know what? Can I try the ferrous fumarate? There's different formulations. Don't just give up on iron supplementation if it's making you feel bleh and really sluggish, constipated and queasy. Try another formulation, another preparation.
Cathy, this is fascinating. This is absolutely fascinating. Now, there is another subject that we wanted to talk about today, which is a common, and you can tell me the stats in just a minute, I'm sure, post-pregnancy issue, and it's mastitis. Can you tell everybody what it is and explain it a little bit about it for us?
Yeah, mastitis is, I've been there, done that, got the T-shirt. I've had 3 kids. I've had mastitis. I'm a new grandma in the last 5 weeks. We've been dealing with mastitis as well. About 33% of breastfeeding women get lactational mastitis, because anybody in the world can get mastitis, but it's very common when you lactate. And we've found out so much more about it recently because in 2022, the Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine put out massive updates to the research. We've found out so much more. So what I'm going to tell you today is not always what I've told women to do in the past. We have very recently changed what we think. It's not an infection, Kate. It's a spectrum. So it can start out as inflammation of the breast. Inflammation, not infection. It moves along through a spectrum, starts with a vague set of symptoms, which I'll talk about, and it moves along. Now, those symptoms can be corrected and resolved by at-home remedies, simple tricks and hacks that mums can do that will resolve it. If they are not successful, the unlucky few will go on to develop. Along the spectrum, they will become infected and have a bacterial mastitis. That needs an antibiotic. The vast majority of women do not need an antibiotic. They've got an inflammatory condition where the breast tissue is inflamed, and it tends to occur early on in your breastfeeding journey, if you like. That's why it's 33% of women get it, and they get it in those first few early weeks and months to begin with. And that's because the breast is setting itself up to lactate. It's early on when you get hyperlactation or you get overstimulation, overproduction, engorgement of breasts. That is the big risk factor for mastitis. So we do know a lot more about it than we used to do. We used to say, put a warm shower jet, get a warm flannel. We used to say, and I've done it and it feels lovely. It feels very comforting. But if you add heat to something that is inflammation, you will make that inflammation worse. So we've stopped telling people to add heat and warm compresses to a breast that you think has got mastitis. We've started saying different things. I'll just describe what you might look like or feel like if you've got it.
Yes, please. Yeah.
It might be early on in your when you first starting to breastfeed. You might get a vague set of symptoms first, and it just tends to be in one breast. You can get all sorts going on when breasts lactate. You can get, things happening to both breasts. Mastitis tends to be just on the one breast. It's incredibly rare to get it at both sides at the same time. So you might just feel one of your breasts doesn't feel right. You might feel almost vaguely unwell, like I'm coming down with flu or something like that. You might not have any visible sign of anything, but you just feel a bit off it, a bit tired, a bit achy. Am I getting the flu? If you look at your breasts, if you are fair-skinned, you might have a red area on the breast. If you're dark-skinned, you might have a darkening in one area of the breast. It might feel hot to touch and it might be painful breasts. And they can feel a bit hard and a bit sore and a bit heavy. I can't describe it without sort of remembering it when I've had it myself.
I know. It makes you want to just put your hands on your chest while we're having this conversation.
It does. And I would say, because of this, we now know it's a spectrum that we can move through. I would say prompt treatment is key. As soon as you think something's going on, then you've got to get these strategies going straight away. And what we used to say was, you've got to empty that breast, you've got to drain that breast, you've got to put that baby on that sore side first and feed. I can hear my own voice going back 20 odd years saying, feed. We now know, because it's an inflammatory thing, the ducts are inflamed, the breast tissue's inflamed, there's extra lymph fluid in there. It's not congealed, infected milk. It's not. We used to think it was, but it isn't. There's no such thing as a single plugged duct. There's there's a sore area of a breast, there's congestion, there's engorgement, there's inflammation, and that can plug the ducts. I've literally released my own plugged ducts and seen like a milky little globule come out, but very rarely just one plugged duct that's causing the problem. It's not congealing milk, it's inflammation in the duct of the breasts. It's dysbiosis of the breast milk itself, the biome of your breast. So we've got a microbiome on our skin, in our vagina, in our bowel. You've got one in your breast milk as well. A population of friendly bacteria that are doing lots and lots of jobs. That can get out of whack and out of kilter in the early days of breastfeeding. So you can have all sorts of inflammatory conditions. And the key thing, straight away, do not stop feeding, but you don't need to start on the sore side. You can put the baby on the side that's not sore and let them get a good feed, take the edge off the hunger, and then put them on the sore side. Feed your baby regularly. Don't skip feeding your baby, and put cold things on the breast. So a packet of frozen peas is the famous one. You can buy gel pads that you put in the freezer. You can get little face cloths, run under a cold tap, put them in a Ziploc bag, put them in the freezer, and they'll be cold in a good half an hour. And I would say regularly, at least every hour, put something cold on the breast at the first sign of mastitis. Savoy cabbage leaves. Twice a day for 20 minutes, there's something magical in them. Now, I wouldn't leave them in all day because that same compound can stop lactation if you're not careful. So just twice a day, the dark green, curly, frilly cabbage leaves that you can wear on the breast, you can put those in a Ziploc bag as well, a sandwich bag, put those in the freezer and just apply those onto the breasts. Keep alternating. So cold, not heat. Compresses of cold, something nice on the breast, wear it in the bra. You can take your bra off. It might be nice to go bra free if you think you're getting mastitis, and it might be nice to very, very gently handle the breasts and not do any pummeling around and pushing and trying to agitate or manually remove milk. If you hand express, do it very gently. I would say avoid using a pump unless you are incredibly engorged and your baby just can't get on.
Because you do, it's that, when this old theory of feed your way through it is empty, so pump the milk out, and that's not what you. That's not what you want to do.
2022,
Okay.
massive study in several countries and many thousands of women. We now know that we don't need to. Well, for a start off, because of MRI technology, we've looked at a breast and we know it's never empty. They're never empty.
Yeah.
There's always 25% milk volume in the breast, even if your baby's in a cluster or a growth spurt. There's always milk in the breast. Mm-hmm. So, and we don't need to put the baby on that first side. We don't need to excessively feed, because it's a problem of excess lactation in the early weeks when your body's getting going with demand and supply. Just feed to your baby's appetite. And if you do need to pump or hand express, just do it to comfort level, just to get that tight, engorged skin to feel a little bit better. Then stop pumping at maybe 2 or 3 minutes. Don't go near a 10-minute pump. Just a couple of minutes, just to take the tension out of the breast. Then put your baby on.
Okay. I was going to ask you, and this is sort of, is that I have lots of friends and family who've been and experienced mastitis to varying levels. So some discomfort, somewhere it's resulted in antibiotics to treat the mastitis. So that's sort of far end of the spectrum.
Yeah, horrid.
Somehow, Cathy, I've had 6 babies to which I've breastfed them all, and I have never had mastitis.
Oh, wow.
No, and that's what people generally say. Now, is there something genetic about mastitis?
Some women are just unlucky and they're going to get it. It's the way you're made. Yeah, it is the way you're made, the way your body functions. Some women will get it. Of the 33% of women that get mastitis in the early weeks, we think about a good 25 to 30% of those women will get it again. So it's very often not a one-off problem, but it is so easily rectified with those at-home strategies. Far fewer women need antibiotics now. We used to give lots of antibiotics. Now we say try the at-home strategies for 24 to 36 hours. The one I've not mentioned is Brufen. Ibuprofen is brilliant for mastitis. Okay. Paracetamol is great for pain. It's great for a high temperature or a fever, but it's not so good for that anti-inflammatory purpose. Ibuprofen, if you can take Brufen, put the cold compresses on, feed your baby, start on the non-sore side first. And the last one is new. It's new from the Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine. They have said do something called manual lymphatic drainage. Now, there are videos of me on TikTok with my breast grabbing my boobs, showing you how to do it. That's the My Expert Midwife TikTok channel, and there are videos all over YouTube of people showing you. So those 3 words, manual lymphatic drainage. And what that is doing, it's doing the opposite to expressing milk. It is pushing lymph fluid back up the breast, directing the massage, gentle massage away from the nipple up towards the armpit, pushing the lymph fluid, gentle pushing the lymph fluid back into the circulation. So what happens, you get an excess of lymphatic fluid. Because the breasts dangle, they've got an angle of the dangle, haven't they? Our breasts dangle, and that fluid can move down to the areola, and it can be difficult for the baby to latch. The milk can taste a little bit salty if you've got very edematous breasts, and we want that lymph fluid moving out of those boobs and getting it back up. So what manual lymphatic drainage is, and I'll let people look at it for themselves, but it is either sitting down or standing up, breathing deeply, using either a tennis ball or the pads of 3 fingers, not the nails, not poking at the breast, but gently massaging 3 places. The neck goes down and the collarbone goes across, and where the 2 meet, you're going to do 5 rubs there.
Okay.
Into your armpit, you're going to do 5 to 10 rubs there, circular rubs, and then you're going to go to your breast, starting at the nipple and going back up with a feathery, light, skimming stroke back up towards your armpit. Imagine if I threw a bucket of water on the kitchen floor and I gave you a sweeping brush and I said, sweep it out, sweep it out. You've got to go quick, or else it'll wash back in. And that's what you've got to do with this manual lymphatic drainage, constantly skimming up. The videos will make it a bit clearer than that explanation does. And you can do that. Nice deep breaths, not wearing a wired bra, really as though you're stroking a kitten, a gentle stroke. Avoid all this. And I hold my hands up. You know, midwives like me used to say, massage the breast, feed the baby. Yes. All of that has changed as of 2022.
That's fascinating. That's really interesting. And there is an opportunity to watch the Family Health podcast. We don't get many viewers. Most people like to have us in their ears as opposed to on their screens. But on our YouTube channel, on the Family Health podcast YouTube channel, you can watch. And Cathy has just done the demonstration live. I'm still sat here holding my chest at the moment.
Armpit. stroking.
There we go.
All round. And remember, the breast is not just a round mound, Kate. A breast goes right up towards your collarbone, right into your armpit. That's all active mammary tissue. So I just think they are the most fantastic organ in the body, apart from the placenta. I think the breast is the most amazing organ in the body, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think from talking to friends, some people have mastitis has ended their breastfeeding journey. And that can cause some sort of emotional trauma with that, or can be quite triggering for people.
Well, it can make you feel desperately ill. Your teeth can chatter. You can shiver away and really feel poorly with it. And for some, the unlucky people that go on through that spectrum and they can't just move into that, I think I'm getting mastitis, I'll carry out all these activities and strategies and then they'll start to feel better. For some women that feel worse, they can develop breast abscess, they can need IV antibiotics in hospital. Gosh. It can be an absolutely grim thing. I have to say, one of the culprits that people used to talk about were silicone nipple shields. And there is also new evidence out to say that the thin silicone nipple shields do not affect milk transfer as much as we thought. If you are sore, if you have got a tongue-tied baby, if you are dreading feeds, please go buy the right size silicone nipple shield for you. So you need to measure your nipples. So there's a small, there's a medium, there's a large, depending on whether you're 17 to 20 whatever millimeters. Get the right size. Wear a silicone nipple shield. You wash them in hot soapy water or the top rack of your dishwasher or a sterilizer, and avoid that soreness. Those cracked, sore nipples with trauma can let infection in, and that can be a bit grim. But I have to reiterate, for most women, mastitis is not an infection. It is not congealed stagnant milk. It is inflammation in the breast. Now, you can take a sunflower lecithin supplement from the health shops. That's great. What that does, it increases the viscosity of the milk. It alters the polyunsaturated fatty acids. It's what they put in chocolate bars to make it in your mouth and melt. It's sunflower lecithin is good. You can get that in a health food shop, or you can speak to your specialist midwife, your health visitor, and say, I've got mastitis, what can I do? Now, if she's good and she's read this recent research like we do, My Expert Midwife, we all keep up, there's a little team of midwives constantly poring over the research, she might also say, go get a probiotic, because we are learning so much more about the milk biome. And we know that there's a dysregulation. Things get out of balance in the breast milk of some women. And they can take 2 supplements. They might have to buy them separately at the moment. Some lovely company should make them together and combine them. They've got that first word, lactobacillus, or it might say limacil, or it might say ligalo. But as long as it ends in lactobacillus, fermentum and salivarius, they're the 2 strains that are in all the research as helping. So there are loads of different, there are hundreds and hundreds of lactobacilli names, long Latin names. The ones that are really good for mastitis, those 2, lactobacillus fermentum, like fermented food, fermentum, and lactobacillus salivarius, like saliva.
And what we'll do, Cathy, is we'll put those in the show notes for today's podcast. So if people want to look back on their podcast platform, you'll see those there. So you've got them, so you can go buy. And then the other supplement would be sunflower lecithin, and then get the brufen, get the ibuprofen in the house, get some Savoy cabbage. If you're going to breastfeed a baby, I would buy these things anyway. So I've just got these little 3 grandchildren in the last 5 weeks, and I've just said to all my daughter, my 2 daughter-in-laws, get the nipple shields in just in case. They've got silver nursing cups as well, little silver nipple shields are antiseptic. They can help as well. Wearing a nice comfortable nursing bra, but taking it off if you feel that you're engorged and you're lumpy and you're bumpy, handling the breasts very gently and carefully. And at the first sign of pain, discomfort, engorgement, a red or a darkened area on the breast, go into action with this little tool bag of things you can do to make sure that inflammation calms down. And it does calm down within 24 hours for most women. If it's not getting any better, you need an antibiotic, and that can be a phone call to your midwife. She can just leave a prescription at the surgery and you can get onto the antibiotic. But lots and lots of things that we can do now. Cathy, can I just ask you quickly, with brufen or ibuprofen, does that have any impact on your baby's tummy if you're taking that? And that transfers through the breast milk?
No, it doesn't. Most of the drugs in breast milk, and there's a website, Drugs in Breast Milk, that you can look at, they are safe. We don't research pregnant women and babies. We don't put them through tests and trials.
Of course.
So we just say it's easier to go, don't take anything. Don't take anything if you're breastfeeding. But we've got such a long history of these drugs. We know that the molecule size of the drugs is too big to get into the breast milk very often. And we know that very small amounts do the baby no harm whatsoever. So the drugs that midwives recommend, paracetamol, ibuprofen, the supplements that we recommend, they are all safe for breastfeeding women. Even general anaesthetics and strong painkillers are probably safe, but we would advise caution on things that make a baby sleepy, of course. Brufen will not make a baby sleepy, and it will get that milk flowing because it will get rid of that inflammation and make you feel a lot better, and it's safe to take.
Cathy, that's been absolutely fascinating. And we always have this tradition on the Family Health Podcast where we ask our experts to give us some takeaway thoughts, one thing that they would like people to take away. Let's talk about anaemia first. What would you like our listeners to take away from our conversation today?
Well, I would say to treat it seriously because it can have a serious impact on your experience. It can keep you in hospital. It can make you bleed. It can have real negative effects, and it is avoidable through taking good supplement, looking at your diet. And my take home would be know your numbers. So if your number at booking is less than 110, you are not, your diet is going to struggle to catch you up with the hemoglobin that you need. Your body needs 27 milligrams of iron a day, and you might not feel like eating that much. So a good supplement, and if your GP or midwife give you an actual, not a vitamin, if they actually say here's iron and it constipates you, can you put up with that constipation? Can you treat that with your diet? Can you go buy some lactulose? Don't stop taking it. Even if you only take it every other day, take it consistently. It's really important.
Cathy, that's really helpful. And talk to us now about the takeaway. We talked about mastitis. Talk about what takeaway you'd like our listeners to have on mastitis.
Well, I would say prepare to lactate, and lactation for a good 30% of women has a bit of a lumpy, bumpy start. Expect engorgement. So have the Brufen in the house, buy a dark Savoy cabbage, have some silicone nipple shields. They can be an absolute lifesaver to just avoid getting sore and cracks and struggling. Your breasts are going to be working bits of kit. And we do lovely breastfeeding webinars. I've filmed them myself. Get your head in the game with what breastfeeding takes to get established. And think of that spectrum. And at the very first symptom of uncomfortable breast, painful, red area, feeling a bit unwell, go into action and do those at-home strategies. Give yourselves 24 hours and then ring your midwife if you're not feeling any better.
Cathy, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. So informative. Cathy is from the very aptly named My Expert Midwife, and an expert she sure is. So Cathy, thank you so much from the team here at Family Health for joining us today. You've been listening to the Family Health Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, because then your regular episodes will drop into your favourite listening platform. You can also follow Mini First Aid on socials, sign up to our newsletter so that you never miss any of this important stuff. And I've got one more request for you before you go, and that is if there are any topics that you would like us to discuss in future episodes, you ask and we will deliver those experts like Cathy into your favourite podcast platform. So please do let us know, comment on the podcast, let us know, and thank you again for listening. You've been listening to the Family Health Podcast. Thank you for listening to Family Health by Mini First Aid. I hope you found our podcast really useful and informative. If you want to know more about Mini First Aid classes, courses, qualification courses or first aid supplies, please do visit minifirstaid.co.uk or look us up on all your favourite social platforms at Mini First Aid. And just a little reminder from me and our sponsor, Things Happen, that if reviewing your life insurance is still on your to-do list, take time to get in touch with a Things Happen advisor today.